Story 1. I am definitely a person who is scared of falling in love now. I love the idea of it, but being committed to someone again scares me. I do not want to start over with someone. Before, I was talking about marriage, and now I am back to questions like, what is your favorite color? This experience has shaped me to be more emotionally distant with people. I am friendly and I laugh, but I no longer feel like my heart is in it. Story 2. It hurt terribly, but it allowed me to build a stronger foundation and trust in myself and my self-worth. I learned that one of the most important lessons in a relationship is that you don't have to prove anything if the trust is lost. I spent far too much time trying to catch or prove the cheating, even though I knew it was happening. That was a waste of time. Once you stop trusting someone, there is no reason to continue spending time on the relationship. It is time to move forward. Story 3. It affected my self-esteem, but now I refuse to tolerate any negativity. Red flags remain red and are not often overlooked. I may be alone forever by choice because the person I was determined to spend my life with left me. I prioritized myself and made a choice, and when he asked to try again, I said no. Part of me regrets saying no. I'm definitely feeling more bitter now. Maybe I'm just not healed. Story 4. It has taught me to be mindful, to show appreciation, and to value other people's opinions. Most importantly, it has made me more aware of where I invest my heart. Not everyone is worthy of a person's heart. Story 5. I don't feel able to fully give myself to a woman again. I want to be able to do that, but it feels impossible. I have slowly gotten over the pain, but my mind won't allow me to fully shake the subconscious fear of appearing foolish for being completely vulnerable. Story 6. As a woman, I have developed a sense of self-love and established some boundaries to support it. I am cautious about jumping headlong into relationships and wary of men, their words and actions. I do not take anything at face value. I am taking things very slow and trying to avoid getting carried away or moving too fast. I am looking for consistency over at least 6 months. Overall, I accept that being single is a good option if nothing works out, and being alone does not equal loneliness. Story 7. To my extreme detriment, I am unable to process it due to external circumstances. I feel like I am no longer a person. Story 8. It made me more cautious, less trusting, and far more unforgiving, building my defensive walls very high. Story 9. Not me, my sister. She went psychotic. I had to handle it, which made me a stronger person. It also showed me how exhausted I am after caring for 2 people for over 10 years. I live in a constant state of worry, fear, and survival. Heartbreak is difficult. I would rather be alone forever than wish that experience on anyone. Story 10. When I was young, I always had goals to start a family early and have multiple children. I was engaged in my early 20s while working the night shift. One night, I finished early and came home to my fiancée and a mutual friend. After that, I began to prioritize work and became focused on my career. I had some longer relationships later, but I realized I had developed some toxic traits, such as poor communication and keeping people at a distance to avoid similar pain. Now, in my late 30s, I have no children. Only in the last few years have I been seriously working on myself and understanding how my past experiences have shaped my outlook on life. Story 11. Walls are all the way up. I can't do that again. It's not healthy for anyone. I let the love of my life go. Although it sounds odd, I don't blame myself, but it was my fault. I wasn't who I needed to be. Story 12. I don't and won't let a heartbreak define the way that I love. Heartbreaks can be painful, but if you are a loving person, then continue to love. Don't let negativity change or ruin who you are. You will find new love, and I hope it is a lasting love for everyone. Story 13. Her lies and infidelity made me reevaluate things. I speak up on issues in my relationships earlier, always with an understanding of the validity of my partner's experiences, which can be completely different from my own. I work hard to never lie. That starts with my choices and actions being aligned with my values, so I don't end up in a situation where I feel compelled to be dishonest. It may sound as if I was lying all the time, but I wasn't. I live a very intentional life now, and that is necessary to avoid lying or manipulating, even in the smallest ways. Her lies and infidelity. Story 14. I no longer trust others as much and evaluate their intentions more. I have no real desire to fully commit to an idea. This perspective has been mostly positive, allowing me to step back and reflect on how I have been deceived in the past. It has restructured my belief system and changed how I process information. However, it has also led to some unsettling discoveries. I have often given pieces of myself to others. My parents have repeatedly let me down, and I see the world as somewhat selfish and callous, with many people so self-involved that they rarely consider perspectives beyond their own. I suppose online communities have played a significant role in highlighting this issue. Story 15. The only heartbreak I experienced was the loss of my first dog. I cried myself to sleep for 3 months straight. That was a strange time. With my subsequent dog, I did not bond as deeply because I knew what would eventually happen. Since losing her, I have not considered getting another dog because it hurts too much. I can understand how people may avoid others after experiencing such pain. Story 16. It made a significant impact on my self-esteem and self-confidence, which has affected my ability to pursue relationships. After avoiding dating for over a decade, I have become too comfortable being single and don't think I would know how to behave in a relationship. Story 17. I am currently going through a situation where I ignored the red flags, so I take responsibility for it. However, I did have some of the best intimate moments. Promises, they break before they're made sometimes. Story 18. Gave me the freedom to move out of state for my dream job, meet an amazing person, and have a great life. The heartbreak was the motivation I needed to change everything. Story 19. I no longer have self-esteem or a sense of self-worth. I am struggling with alcoholism. I dislike myself and sometimes wish that this struggle would end my life. Story 20. I was given the opportunity to start over. I have no friends from school, no relationships, and no desire to replace them at the moment. All I have is a decent job and my youth. Story 21. I felt as if I owed it to you because you were so nice was why a girlfriend was with me. It hurt a bit. She didn't truly want to be with me. She just felt it was a duty. No one owes me anything. I am never an obligation. This often means that what I want comes last. Story 22. Ironically, I am able to trust myself more but have become deeply suspicious of other people now. Story 23. I have had women take care of me my whole life. I was in a relationship for 13 years, which ended after I found out she was cheating on me with many different people. I had to move out on my own and learn a lot of common life skills. It showed me I am capable of managing my own home and that I would be okay. I eventually got back together with my ex, but I live every day with the reminder that I could lose it at any time, and that's okay. Hope for the best. Expect the worst. Story 24. It made me feel unworthy of love, and as a loving person, it felt like a javelin through my heart. I am more aware of how people treat me in friendships, and most of it is one-sided, but it has always been that way for me. I wouldn't mind going through the process again if it meant that the other person saw me as a person, not as a temporary thing. Story 25. There are pros and cons to consider. My entire personality has changed. I used to be more welcoming, but now I feel more reserved and rigid, giving off leave me alone vibes. This experience has taught me a lot about self-respect and being true to myself. I learned never to change who I am just to please someone else. I used to be a people pleaser, but now I find myself feeling disconnected. I don't think I want to fall in love again because the last experience hurt me deeply. Story 26. I am currently with my boyfriend, who supported me during a difficult time. When I met him, I was still navigating a complicated friendship. After that friendship ended, he was there for me and helped me through the experience. Though I still have some insecurities related to those events, I am grateful for how everything unfolded, as it allowed me to open up to my boyfriend. Story 27. I feel hesitant to enter another relationship due to past experiences with cheating and desire. Right now, I want to focus on my studies and set my priorities. I believe I should be fully committed to my goals without distractions, as I have learned that I cannot successfully prioritize both relationships and studies simultaneously. Story 28. I became reserved. I'm still lovable and generous, but you can expect that I will always prioritize myself. Story 29. There was a significant event 10 years ago that made me crash deeply. I used drugs and alcohol every day to numb the pain until my body gave up on New Year's Eve. It was the second time I experienced clinical death for a few minutes. After that, I reset my life completely. I questioned everything: my goals, dreams, wants, needs, beliefs, and everything I thought I knew for sure. I examined what would shatter into several pieces and what would remain intact. Based on that, I changed the direction of my life, shaping me into the person I am now. Occasionally, I encounter people from my past who want the old me back. But no matter how much I try to explain, they never understand that the old me died 10 years ago, along with the aftermath of that event. Story 30. I have experienced a few heartbreaks, some worse than others. At the time, it was awful, especially during my adolescent years. However, I now view it as a lesson learned, much like discovering that the stove is hot. I'm not angry with myself or the situation. I simply understand when and where to be cautious. It's not a perfect analogy. Story 31. If it weren't for my ex-spouse cheating on me, I would never have the wife and 3 children I have now. I probably would not have taken the chance to enter the construction industry I am in now. Looking back, I see the 8 years I spent with her as a total waste. Story 32. I buried my old self and became a completely different person. Besides hobbies, not much is left of who I was. Story 33. He left me for someone else 3 days before our wedding. It was devastating at the time, but it forced me to finally go to therapy. I discovered that I had significant self-worth issues to address. 7 years later, I am actually thankful it happened. Story 34. I was deceived by a guy I met online who pretended to be a girl. He eventually felt guilty after getting to know me and admitted the truth. I was crushed but forgave him. We started talking and playing games together since both of us felt lonely in the world. We've been best friends for over 15 years now. I refer to us as life partners, and even his mother considers me part of the family. The funniest part is that his sister was convinced for years that I'm some internet predator, and she only seems to have changed her mind because we are no longer kids. Story 35. My heartbreak was caused by the death of my partner when we were 25. Turned my whole life upside down and shaped me into the person I am today. Experiencing such a significant loss at a young age teaches you early on how short life is and that you must get out there and live it. I traveled extensively and eventually emigrated, pursuing everything I wanted with little fear. I wasn't afraid because the worst thing had already happened to me. I still maintained that mentality. I did close my heart off for a long time because that was one place I couldn't let my guard down, fearing that lightning might strike twice. However, I now have a wonderful man whom I love with all my heart, someone who is worth the wait. 12 years later. Story 36. I broke up in 2020 and have been single ever since. I feel unable to enter a new relationship and struggle to trust anyone. I worry this will be my reality for the rest of my life. Story 37. It hurt at the time, but it taught me how to let go of what was not meant for me and helped me recognize what was meant for me. Story 38. I experienced 2 heartbreaks, one when I was 19 and one more recently. I don't think I fully recovered from my first breakup, especially since it happened on my birthday. I lost most of my friends from school. In hindsight, we were both foolish and immature. Part of me has forgiven her, but another part still blames her for hindering my ability to open up to people and for making me keep my guard up, especially considering she is now engaged after having hurt others in her life. It took me some time to open up again, only for it to turn into another difficult situation. The person I thought was my best friend betrayed me. The girl ended up seeing someone else while playing games with my feelings. It was chaotic and damaging, and I lost friends again. Now, my defenses are so high that it's very hard to let them down. Story 39. I have become more cynical. Whenever I start to feel happy in a relationship or get excited for a date, things seemed to fall apart. I was genuinely happy in my last relationship, but he ended it shortly after that. Each time I have looked forward to a date, I have been stood up. I managed to hide my feelings well in person, but not being given a chance has started to make me bitter. Story 40. I realized how awful and depraved many men are, making it difficult for me to respect any of them. This perspective frees me from caring about their opinions. I initially thought that only the most pathetic men sought out sex workers, but it turns out that many more of them engage in this behavior, and almost all of them watch pornography. It's quite disheartening. Story 41. Because it finally forced me to meet myself, all the parts of me that hurt were hidden or I was ashamed of. I reflected, sat dejected, meditated, cried, felt lonely, and slowly but surely, as time has gone by, I began to understand what it meant and what it actually felt like to have a loving relationship with myself, with all of me. I had been trying to get my partner to complete me, to heal me, to love the parts of me that I was ashamed of. I was trying to get her to do the work for me that I needed to do myself. I have learned. I have never been more at peace in my own skin than I am now, and I am so grateful for all the pain and the lessons it taught and continues to teach. I read a quote once that resonated. Heal your wounds, or you'll end up dating them. Story 42. It changed you irrevocably. I misread. I'm a much better partner now, but I also have much higher expectations of partners. I am more attentive and less selfish, but because I believe I bring more to the table, I now ask more of the people I engage with romantically. Story 43. I love myself more, and I don't push to find a best friend. My biggest heartbreak was losing a friend I've known my entire life, but that needed to happen. Story 44. I was in a long-term relationship and was set to get married to a man when I was 22. We had many problems, including his major drinking issue, but in my mind, we had already been together for 6 years, and it seemed like the path I was on. Until one day, I realized it didn't have to be that way. I ended the relationship, canceled the wedding, and got a job teaching abroad. 6 years later, after traveling to 10 countries and living in 4, I found a great man, got married, and recently had our first baby. I believe that the heartbreak from that first relationship taught me so much. While I wish him the best, I think that without that experience, I wouldn't have realized what I wanted and wouldn't have pushed myself so far out of my comfort zone to find happiness in myself and my future relationship. Story 45. My last breakup was actually the most life-changing one, mostly due to my belief that everything was perfect, and it all crashed down in a single day that revealed a lot of hidden truths. It changed me to the point where I completely shut off my emotions. It undermined my belief that I would find healthy love, be wanted long enough to marry, have children, the whole deal. I convinced myself that I didn't care anyway and that a partner would just hinder my life goals. Now, a year later, I am starting to feel those feelings come up again, desiring simple affection and being gentle with someone, while struggling to know if I want to push it away again or not. It's crazy how one person in one day can change everything that used to define you. I was always the world's biggest hopeless romantic. Story 46. All of them made me a better person, although I was a little bitter for a while. They taught me, 1. Never forget who you are as an individual in a relationship. Having high standards is great. Once you know it's over, just let go. Don't cling on and waste more time, as it will only hurt. Identify your deal breakers. Even when you think you cannot live without them, you absolutely can, and it is better to be alone sometimes. Story 47. Last year, I went through a breakup that felt like the end of the world. It made me realize how much I depended on someone else for my happiness. After that, I started focusing on myself, picked up journaling, explored art, and began working out. Now I feel stronger and more independent. Story 48. I'm scared of love now, but it's made me stronger and more confident in myself. I have given up on finding love, though. I think loving myself is enough and will spare me from heartbreak and trauma. Story 49. My partner of 50 years passed away last July. He underwent surgery, became paralyzed, and was put on a ventilator. I experienced a painful grieving phase. Now, for the most part, I have become stronger and can live my life again. My sister died weeks before he did, which was a double blow. Story 50. I went through the trauma and heartbreak of losing my dogs due to domestic violence. Because of that, I have become an advocate and help others. I have made a significant difference with my advocacy, which has stemmed from my personal loss. Helping others has been one of the best ways to cope and heal. Story 51. I believe all my heartbreaks have shaped me into the partner I am today. The most important lesson for me was to recognize my emotions, such as irritation, sadness, and fear, and learn to communicate them to my partner in a constructive way. I also learned how to establish boundaries properly and communicate them effectively. Now, it's not a problem for me to express, "Here are my boundaries. Cross them, and you will lose access to me." Story 52. I am no longer a doormat. I am no longer naive or just giving. I took years to recover from the betrayal and divorce before dating again, and my ability to recognize red flags is finally working. Story 53. When I was younger, I had a friend. I liked him intensely for a year, but he didn't reciprocate and later left town. We grew closer as friends online after that, and I was a very determined person. My routine was unshakable, and I was working hard for myself and my goals. He would wake up early to have 15 minutes to talk to me and made it a point to log in at 9 p.m., as I allowed myself phone time until 9:15 p.m. I had no clue he had taken a liking to me. I was too busy to notice. When I found out, I became interested as well. However, I immediately lost myself and grew extremely attached to him, simply because he was my boyfriend. He broke up with me within a week. This came after 3 years of slow building, so it shattered me completely. He eventually ghosted me and became a bit cruel, though I'm not referring only to the ghosting. It took me a long time to get over it, and after I did, I held a deep hatred for his cruelty for months after the breakup. However, I returned to myself and became committed again. At a pivotal point in my life, I abandoned that pursuit once more, but this time I learned to do better. It took me a while to see why that heartbreak taught me that much like everything else, I had to learn to date for myself and not to prove a point. Dating couldn't be the basis of my life. It should complement my life and not disrupt it completely when in contact. We are good friends now. Over time, we both changed and built a new friendship from scratch. It's been nice. We both respect each other and ourselves now. Story 54. It crushed me at first. But then I came to realize I didn't really love her. I loved the physical aspect of the relationship. Then I had an encounter with someone else and realized a sexual partner is replaceable, but my dignity is not. Story 55. My last romantic relationship disabused me of my belief in romantic love, so now I live with my best friend and we are partners. We sleep with each other and anyone else we want, share everything, and I am happier than I have ever been in a romantic relationship. Story 56. Not romantic heartbreak, but familial. The wound reopens every time I see him, and echoes from the fallout are rare, but occur regularly. I empathize, and while his actions are not reasonable, they are understandable, so I stopped fighting and internalized the pain. Beyond exacerbating an already severe sensitivity to rejection and leading to a cascading breakdown at the time, it has actually made other relationships easier. I learned to be more intentional when establishing and managing connections. It also strangely led to my past breakups being surprisingly amicable. Just because you cannot healthily be in a relationship does not mean you cannot still care about someone. Story 57. Into someone who is very scared of any commitment. I dream every day about love and being loved, but I just cannot do it. My self-esteem is at an all-time low, and I feel terrible. Sometimes I still believe that maybe it will change one day, but after some time, I am sinking into non-existence and depression again, trying to erase my presence. I have fantasies about dying, disappearing, going somewhere else, and leaving this ugly body. I am so tired of this, but I can't resist. Story 58. It led me to depression and a fear of connecting with people, but it also gave me the strength to finally seek professional help. Story 59. I had a partner who was questioning their gender. I will never date anyone who falls into that category. They constantly changed their boundaries, which is fine, but they wouldn't communicate those changes, and if I did something that made them uncomfortable, they expected me to know. I struggle with change, so it was especially tough for me. I also felt as though they did not want to be physical with me at all, which is challenging because that is my love language, including holding hands and hugging. It was unhealthy for both of us. As I mentioned, it shaped who I am today because I will not date a person who identifies as asexual again, especially if they have been questioning their gender for years and have not settled on even a temporary label. Story 60. I am grateful for people who betray me. I would rather see their true colors sooner than later, so I can distance myself from them and not waste any more time. Story 61. A 9-year relationship and 1 year of marriage taught me the importance of building a strong emotional foundation and choosing my partner more carefully. There was much I could have done differently, but I was not met halfway. I am now much stronger and more aware than I was, and I will carry that with me and approach things differently moving forward. Story 62. It shaped me into the best version of myself. When I broke up with him, I was in a deep hole, but slowly I clawed my way back to the top and became who I am today. To be honest, I am grateful for it. Story 63. I moved across the world to an ongoing conflict for my former partner, and our relationship deteriorated quickly once we moved in together. This is extremely common, but I had nobody in that hemisphere. I knew nobody. I learned the language quickly and met people who helped me. I became very strong very fast. I learned how to handle things outside of my comfort zone. I got used to the guns and the shouting. I learned to laugh at things that nobody should ever experience, let alone laugh at. I am actually extremely grateful for my former partner and how entitled and vindictive they were to me. It unlocked who I am today, and this is who I need to be. Clearly, I am not over it, and I certainly hurt my former partner very badly as well. My hands aren't clean. Hopefully, in 5 to 10 years, we will both be grateful for the gifts we gave each other, and hopefully we never speak again. Story 64. Just a person who accepts things as they are and moves on. They do not seek friendships or close relationships, avoiding connections that may not end well. Story 65. I realize that I am the one attracting negative people, and it won't get better if I don't improve myself. I am the happiest I have ever been. I am grateful to have seen what I do not want at a young age, so now I do not have to waste my time. Now I have a partner whom I absolutely adore. I never thought someone could love me like that. Story 66. I think the most important part of heartbreak for me is improving myself in areas of my life that I knew needed work but I procrastinated on. Hindsight is 20/20. I aim to be better next time. Story 67. I looked back and reflected on what I liked about her. I realized what I wanted in a relationship and what I don't want. She is a great person and I would still want her, but the feelings are not the same on her part. There isn't much more to do. To answer your question, it shaped me into understanding more about what I am looking for and what I consider important. I am now even more ready for a relationship, even if my options have decreased due to my new deal breakers. Story 68. All-time personal record in weight gain and all-time personal record in income. I only see women as opportunists now. We can be friends, but I can't start relationships. Story 69. Breaking up with her made me realize how much of a good person I was before her. I'm not the best guy you'll find, but she awakened a part of me I never knew I had. I gained weight in a healthy way, started working more again, and began taking walks and running. I cut my hair, which had looked unkempt. I have always enjoyed talking with people, but when I was with her, I felt trapped. I am grateful for what I have right now. 11 months soon with my future wife, and I am happier than ever. Story 70. I had a man break my heart when I was 18. I thought he was a sweet, kind, romantic person. When he broke up with me, it was on his birthday and he was drunk. That night, I learned he had some sort of untreated mental illness. He started talking nonsense about how he thought he was evil and mentioned demons. He was also only dating me to make another girl jealous. I heard several years later that he might be schizophrenic and had been a difficult person since. I have no idea where he is now, and I don't care, but I dodged a bullet. Story 71. I dated a girl for 4 years who told me she thought I was in a lower social class than she was because her father is wealthy. The irony is that her father pays for everything for her, and she hardly worked at the time. I used her words to fuel my determination for my second college degree. Whenever I didn't want to do my homework or study, I thought of her comment, and it motivated me to get back to work. I graduated and now earn a six-figure salary. Who's in the lower social class now? Story 72. I was with someone for more than 4 years. We moved across the country together, and then he cheated. I had to start from scratch, which showed me how important friendships and family are. It has been a year since then. I found my independence, set my boundaries, and fell in love with my life and myself. Now I am building towards my career and my future. Story 73. The first year after the breakup was the worst thing to ever happen to my self-esteem. He kept coming back as a friend. And as someone who had no self-respect, I kept allowing him back into my life. I cried every time he left. Then he would come back again until I had gotten used to that routine. Eventually, I decided to stand up for myself. He still sent me messages, but I no longer felt anything. One day, I just stopped replying. Now that it's almost 2 years later, I can say that I'm glad it happened. I no longer force things if they're not meant for me. All I'm focused on now is becoming the best version of myself and doing all the things I want to do to make the pain of staying in that situation worth it. Story 74. I don't find women that interesting to talk to anymore. Having to pretend to be interested in their discussions about pop music or artists makes me feel sick to my stomach now. Perhaps I am not as desperate anymore. I don't care much about sending messages, as I'm afraid of being ghosted again. Story 75. I am afraid of falling in love again. I would like to, but I don't want to suffer, so I am being very careful. Story 76. I was in a 2.5-year relationship that I would only realize many years later was, in fact, abusive. My ex had some mental health issues, but used them as justification to behave in terrible ways and act possessive and jealous of everyone and everything. She only began doing this after her diagnosis, even though she had those issues before but didn't know about them. I lost contact with many friends, and others would actively avoid hanging out in the same place as her. She would be clingy and never leave me alone for a single moment, to the point where I felt trapped and would feel relieved when she couldn't go to my house on the weekend because I finally would have a little time for myself. This entire situation made me value my alone time more than before and also taught me to put myself first to keep my mental health in check. Story 77. Over 30 years ago, I experienced terrible heartbreak. Now I am a 50-year-old who has devolved into a heartless monster. Story 78. It reminded me how strong and unbreakable I am. Do you know there's a small part of me that appreciates it? Story 79. It taught me many valuable lessons, for which I am grateful. I wouldn't be as knowledgeable or as good a person without it. Story 80. It made me realize that I have much to learn about emotional growth and maturity, particularly in being comfortable with opening up to others. Story 81. It made me more selective and aware of people's flaws, realizing that personal satisfaction is equally important as my partner's satisfaction. I had to love myself before loving others. It was easier to say no to people in the dating market because I knew that attraction wasn't the same as long-term compatibility. And it led me to an amazing wife, someone I enjoy spending time with every time I see her, even after 13 years of marriage. The reason I shared this is that I just replied to a discussion where a woman called off her engagement with a man who didn't take wedding planning seriously. My previous self would have probably married a woman who became upset that I didn't want to participate in catering plans. I would have forced myself to attend, pretending to have an opinion, and I would have been miserable maintaining a facade. That would have likely continued throughout the marriage. You know what happened for my wife and me during our wedding? I expressed that I didn't care about weddings. She understood that we could coexist with differing needs and wants, and she didn't force her preferences on me. This understanding has served us well. I don't make her watch football with me, and I don't force her to play golf. She doesn't take me shopping. I married a woman who appreciates independence and uniqueness, and it is wonderful. My previous self would have been too naive to understand that. But that's one example of how I have learned. Story 82. It gave me realistic expectations. When we are young, we believe that love is like the movies, happily ever after. People change. They grow and experience highs and lows. I didn't take a bitter approach to heartbreak. Instead, it made me more aware that we all have flaws. Some individuals struggle with impulse control, and some are their own worst enemies. I have empathy for them, even if I cannot remain in a relationship with them. I have to do what's best for me, and I hope they can improve their own lives as well. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.